Right. Good morning, everybody. Many apologies for the delay. It was unavoidable, so I'm sorry about that. So good morning. This is the meeting of South Cambridgeshire District Council Cabinet. My name is Councillor Bridget Smith and I'm chairing the meeting. My Vice Chair, Councillor Brian Milnes, is sitting beside me. Those in the chamber, reminder the meeting is being live streamed. Make sure your phones are turned off, please. I've left my phone at home, so that's one problem solved. Created a few others. Members of Cabinet are entitled to speak before non-Cabinet members and any other members present will then be able to speak. Can I ask those joining us remotely ensure their cameras and microphones remain off unless they're addressing the committee? And for those of us present in the room, please ensure your microphone's close to you and speak clearly. So we're starting off with apologies for absence. Patrick, have we got? Are you leading on this? Thank you. We're all at 6s and 7s today.
Sorry for the delay. Yes, we have apologies from Councillor John Batchelor.
Councillor John Batchelor, thank you very much indeed. No other apologies for absence. Declarations of interest. Do any members have any interest to declare in relation to items of business on today's agenda? No? So, right, thank you very much. If anything occurs to you during the meeting, then please declare it then. Minutes of the previous meeting. Members are asked to approve the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday the 16th of April 2024. I move the approval of those minutes as a correct record. I think Councillor Brian Milnes is going to second it. Are there any issues arising from the minutes? No? Okay, so do members agree to approve the minutes?
Agree.
Anyone wishing to vote against? Anyone wishing to abstain? So Cabinet therefore agrees the approval of the minutes as a correct record by affirmation. Item 4 is announcements. I'm not aware of any announcements. Nope, thank you very much indeed. So moving swiftly on to item 5, which is public questions. We have one question thus far from Ms. Annabelle Sykes, which is set out in the supplementary document pack. Hello, Ms. Sykes, we can see you online, so thank you very much for joining us. Would you like to read your question out? Could you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Good. In May 2023, the East West Railway Company Limited, which I'll refer to as EWR, set out its rationale for building the railway from Bedford to Cambridge. The case has two critical parts. First, the creation of an additional 20,000 jobs at the Cambridge Biomedical Campus over the next 2 decades through the expansion of CBC, together with opening up other land in the South Cambridge area for development. And secondly, the expansion of the population between Milton Keynes and Cambridge by 213,300. That's in order to get enough people on the trains. And that includes expanding Cambourne by a factor of 6.8. In other words, adding houses at Cambourne for 53,400 people. There's a typo in my question for which I apologise. Both these things go far beyond and are very different from what was envisaged by Greater Cambridge Shared Planning in the first proposals for the local plan, being a relatively modest 19-hectare possible extension to CBC and 1,950 new homes at Cambourne. What is SCDC's position on EWR's proposals for CBC, the South Cambridge area and Cambourne? Local planning authorities are now responsible for the housing and employment growth needed to support EWR's theory of change. It is no longer a central government matter. What should we expect to see for these areas in the next iteration of the local plan?
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Sykes. I'm going to ask Councillor Toomey Hawkins, who's our lead on planning, to answer the question for you.
Thank you, Leader. And through you, thank you for your question, Mrs Sykes.
But firstly, I reiterate that East-West Rail Line is a nationally significant infrastructure project in full control of central government. Secondly, the Gove 2050 plan to build 150,000 plus houses in the area, which includes the use of the East-West Rail Line as a transport link, was planned to be delivered through the growth company created by Mr. Gove before the general election was called. Finally, the council's proposals for Camborne and Cambridge Biomedical Campus were set out in the Greater Cambridge Local Plan first proposals, as you have correctly noted. Those proposals are to meet our objectively assessed need in Greater Cambridge. There is no change to that as of now, and the next local plan making stage is envisaged in 2025. Thank you.
So thank you very much indeed, Councillor Hawkins. Ms Sykes, do you have a supplementary question you'd like to ask? The response will appear in the minutes in full, by the way. So do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. I think that, I'm afraid I think that answer is a cop-out. It is very clear from what's been said to the Transport Select Committee that jobs growth, the provision for jobs, and the housing plan are local regional responsibilities. Nobody knows what is going to happen to Mr. Gove's plan. It would at least be helpful to know whether SCDC envisages any significant change at CBC or at Camborne. As regards CBC and its 20,000 jobs, which appear in Vision 2050, I would draw your attention to the assessment prepared by Great Shelford Parish Council and Trumpington Residents Association, which has pointed out a number of significant flaws with Vision 2050, including the fact that they have no idea how they calculated the 20,000 jobs.
Thank you very much. So, I mean, you've clarified that, you know, a lot of these things, there's a lot of unknowns here, but if I could just come back to Councillor Hawkins in case there's anything she can add to that now, though I think she might want to take some of this away and give it further thought.
There's nothing further I can add. I can only reiterate that, you know, as of now, our next local plan making stage, as I said, is not until 2025. We have to wait until after the election to find out what Gove's plan is going to end up being. What I will ask is that you forward to us the documents you have referred to, and we can provide you with an answer. Thank you.
Thank you very
Can I just say that both you and the leader already have that document, and I have an email. Yeah. So
we do. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for participating in this meeting.
Okay.
Right, moving on. We have update from Scrutiny and Overview. Councillor Bradham, do you want to speak within the main body of the meeting, or do you want to speak on behalf of Scrutiny and Overview now? I know you have another meeting to go to.
It might be easier to speak now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, well, please do. Thank you.
Yeah. So the first element was 6A, which is the meeting that was held on the 16th of May, and where we were concentrating on the update on the cost of living support that we had given as a council to the residents of South Cambs. And broadly speaking, the committee were very happy with the report, and actually more fundamentally with the help that had been given and delivered to the residents. We asked for updates on a number of matters raised, and we have received responses back on the confirmation that the wording in the report that we had slightly adjusted would be presented to Cabinet in, we said at that time in September, but I think it's come to this meeting. And it had been amended to clarify the difference between the products and the people. It's just terminology, between this energy saving appliances and the people who were getting them. The article was going to be included in the parish e-bulletin to let the parish councils and town councils know that they can request visits of the mobile food hub to their parishes if they wanted, and they needed to make a small financial contribution to that, but we wanted to make sure that parishes were aware of that. And we wondered where the decision was between use of the food hub or whether we delivered food parcels, and that was to do with largely mobility, the ability of people to attend. But all of that was very welcome, and we were happy to recommend the report to Cabinet. So that was the meeting on the 16th. And then on the 6th of June, so this is on your item 6B, we looked at the review of the Greater Cambridge Housing Strategy, and we raised a number of questions on the strategy and asked for options to improve public engagement when the strategy is next reviewed, because none of us could recall having actually seen it before this point when it came to scrutiny and overview. So, and indeed also, we were sort of slightly startled and disappointed that only 10% of the individual respondents who provided details of where they lived came from South Cambridgeshire. So it seemed a very low response rate for South Cambridgeshire District Council. So we wanted to encourage ways to improve engagement with residents. We asked for enhancement of one of the categories to highlight the experiences of young people in South Cambridgeshire, to explore options for providing greater detail of the features in new homes, including those acquired by South Cambridgeshire District Council from the developers, intended to mitigate and adapt to climate change and to reflect the key achievements as part of the South Cambridgeshire District Council asset management strategy, which we felt were significant and important and needed to be highlighted. We wanted to make sure we identified possible reasons for the imbalance between those seeking plots for self-build and custom build and the number of planning permissions granted, and we recognised that there had been some difficulties in the delivery of that project in the early stages, but it was improving now. And it was asked to consider adding park homes to section 10 of Annex 2 under other forms of affordable housing. We recognise that park homes are a welcome addition to the collection of affordable housing in the district, but we are mindful of how those sites are managed and also how planning permission happens on them, which is largely outside the planning authority and only under caravan site licences, which makes it quite difficult to exert any control at all. And also to clarify and align the climate change targets, which South Cambridgeshire District Council and Cambridge City Council are holding quite close to their hearts in considering planning applications, and we want to make sure that we are all doing as well as each other with that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Bradnam, and please pass our thanks on to Scrutiny and Overview Committee for their very valuable attention to and feedback, much appreciated. So members, you're asked to note the reports from Scrutiny and Overview. So moving on to item 7, which is the 2023-24 Quarter 4 Performance Report, which Councillor John Williams is going to present and which I will second. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Leader. I think it's good to remember that Quarter 4 covers the winter period, when obviously people are more likely to be off sick. And this particular quarter, we also had a lot of people who, because of the pandemic, who had operations and other things, medical attention, that added to that. We also, of course, at the end of the financial year, and we have people catching up on their council tax and their business rates. And of course, during the pandemic, we allowed people to pay for over 12 months instead of normal 10. So again, that affected that. And also, being at the end of the financial year, we have an awful lot of queries when people start seeing their council tax bills appear on their doormat. So, you know, Q4 is a very difficult quarter. However, having said all that, you will see from the figures that once again we have, you know, by and large, outperformed or at least done as well as we have done in previous years, and our staff should be congratulated for that fact.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions from any members? Any members of Cabinet? Anybody else? No? Thank you very much indeed, and thank you very much to the officers who put this excellent report together, and you know, particularly the narrative that goes along with it, because RAG ratings only tell you so much, but the narrative gives you all the background. So many thanks for that. So the recommendations are set out on page 19 of the pack, which I'm just trying to get back to. Oh, sorry. Right, recommendations is review the KPI results and comments at Appendix A and progress against the business plan at Appendix B. Recommend where appropriate any actions required to address issues identified. So do members agree with the proposal?
Agree.
Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals. Thank you, Councillor Williams. So item 8 is the Provisional General Fund Revenue and Capital Outturn. And Councillor John Williams is going to present this again, and Councillor Brian Milnes is seconding this one. So Councillor Williams, to you again.
Thank you, Leader. Well, of course, this is a provisional outturn because it's yet to be audited by external auditors. However, again, it shows that this council has a very strong financial position, and I'm very pleased to see that we managed to make some £5 million net savings. Unfortunately, though, our expected grants were also, our expected income was also down by about 5 million due mainly to business rates. So at the end of the day, we were expecting a small surplus, and that increased a little bit to just under 2 million. But nevertheless, it's an extremely good performance. It showed that we have recovered from the effects of COVID, and that once again I thank all our officers and the council for the way that they've worked, and for the fact that not only have we met our budgets, we have actually improved on them. I'd also like to mention planning actually, because 2 years ago the planning budget was overspent by some £250,000 because we were having to employ agency staff. And I'm delighted to see that planning is now achieving its budget, and we don't have that overspend anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very useful point to make. Councillor Milnes, do you want to add anything?
No, nothing to add other than to endorse John Williams. Thanks to the teams for their sterling work in this respect.
Yes, thank you very much to all officers concerned and all the departments actually. So the recommendations are set out on page 65 and 66. I won't read them because they're quite extensive. Any Cabinet members want to comment on anything? Anybody else? Nobody online? No? Okay, so do members agree with proposals as set out?
Agreed.
Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals. Thank you. And more money matters. Item 9 is the 23-24 Provisional Housing Revenue Account and Capital Outturn. So Councillor John Williams to propose, and I think Councillor Peter MacDonald is seconding this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Again, very good performance by our housing department. I mean, slight underspend on revenue. Some of that is due to the underspend on capital. There's some slippage, and obviously the revenue related to that capital spend is not as much as we had anticipated, but nevertheless, given the, considering the housing and the new build situation where we are not seeing as many houses being built as we expected because of the general economic situation, nevertheless, it's a good performance by the housing department.
Thank you very much. Councillor MacDonald, do you want to add anything? Thanks very much. Hopefully we can get you a microphone that works, because I don't think people online can hear if the microphones aren't working. But there was no additional information from Councillor MacDonald. So the recommendations are on page 81. Again, they're quite extensive, so I won't read them. Are there any questions from anyone Cabinet? Any more questions from anybody else? No. So do members agree with the proposal?
Agreed.
Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone wish to abstain? Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals, and thank you very much indeed to all concerned. Great work. So, slight change of theme now on item 10 is the South Cambridgeshire Community Safety Partnership Operational Plan and Communications Plan for 24-25, and Councillor Henry Batchelor is going to present this, and Councillor Toomey Hawkins is going to second it. So, Councillor Batchelor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. Happy to propose this item. For those that remember, this is an item that comes to us annually. As we're a constituent member of the Community Safety Partnership, we and all other constituent members need to be in agreement of the operational and communications plan. I'm pleased to say not much has changed from last year's plan. There's some very academic updates to the plan that are highlighted in the report. It's probably worth noting as well that this is year 3 of the Community Safety Partnership, and we're just waiting to hear from the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority as to whether it will be continuing into next year. I know us as a district council and all of our partners are hoping that they will decide to continue it, because it has been very productive, and it's good to have collaboration across many sectors in Cambridgeshire to agree this plan. One comment we had when we brought this to our informal meeting was that it would be good to see the strategic assessment that have been undertaken, which is actually appended to this report. So hopefully that has given a bit more clarity to what is being asked for here. Worth noting at this stage as well that all of our partners have also agreed to this operational plan. So we are, so I'm hoping that this will be acceptable to Cabinet. You might see as well we have Linda online, who's obviously done all the work on this. So if there are any, if there's anything I've missed, Linda, please do expand.
Thank you. Linda, is there anything you want to add at this point?
No, nothing to add, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hawkins, do you want to say anything?
Thank you, Leader. I'm happy to second this. Though I'm happy to see that, we've got 2 councillors that sit on the board. What I'm not sure about is how that percolates down to the local level if issues arise locally, and how they get reported and how we get feedback from them.
Okay, Councillor Batchelor, do you want to take that about how members of our, how our residents liaise with this very important committee, or do you want to pass it on to Linda?
Sure. Well, obviously the 2 members we have from this council are there on the board to represent the council. So I think it's an interesting question. I mean, there are lots of bodies on the partnership. I mean, it's made up of the police, the health service, the probation service, us, the fire and rescue service, the county council, and the voluntary sector. So there's a huge amount of input from across the county on there. But yeah, it might be worth asking Linda if there's any more detail on how issues can be fed into the partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We do rely on our 2 councillors to take any information and disseminate that. We do ask that as part of their role on the board. But we also have carried out a lot of work with information sharing. We have a position that is being funded by the Crime and Commissioner Commissioner's Office and Beth Watson, and she has done a lot of work with communicating with our district councillors as well as our parish councillors to disseminate information and to make the community safety inbox available to everybody that anybody can feed into, as can the public, and from there we can action and push that back up into the community safety partnership. So that information I can provide again, but we do regularly push that out in any of the communications throughout the council.
Thank you very much,
Does
Linda.
that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, Councillor Hawkins, lovely. So we'll encourage people with further questions or particular ward issues to come directly to you. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Recommendations on page 90. Oh, sorry, Councillor Braddon. My apologies.
Thank you very much, Leader. I just wanted to recommend this from all directions. I sit on the police and crime panel as a county councillor, and I'm also one of the ward members for one of the named villages that requires the help of this excellent plan. And in fact, Linda and I were only discussing recently how best to engage with the residents in the parishes, because I think one of the things is that sometimes lots of reports come into the police from individuals about antisocial behaviour or worries that they have in a particular area. But sometimes the parish council doesn't get included in that. So what the Community Safety Partnership is trying to do is reach out into those communities so that we can so that the Community Safety Partnership can garner the information from the residents and share it with the parish council so that there's an understanding of what's going on, but also work within the community to try and deliver the operational plan, which is the Police and Crime Commissioner's plan, and our operational plan, the Community Safety Partnership. So there's a lot of cross-body working. So I think it's excellent, and I'm very happy it's being supported and that we have the extra money to deliver this in our local villages, which we're very concerned about. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? No. And it's a relatively small sum of money, but actually I think very well spent. Thank you. The recommendation is on page 93, so that Cabinet agrees the contents of the Community Safety Partnership, combined operational plan and the communications plan, considering the lead role the council takes in its delivery and the resources committed to it. So, do members agree with the proposal?
Agree.
Anyone wishing to vote against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposal. Thank you very much, Linda. Much appreciated. And another nice project, item 11, is the Mental Health Support Officer pilot, which Councillor John Williams is going to propose and Councillor Brian Milnes is going to second.
Thank you, Leader. I'm very pleased to recommend that we extend this trial. 2 years ago, we agreed to set up a pilot to employ a mental health support officer, not really knowing what level of demand that person would meet. And in fact, what we have discovered in the past 2 years that there is an enormous need for such a post, and by extending the trial by another 2 years means that we can now go out and seek partners to and involve other organisations in this, so we can bring together a holistic approach to this particular issue, particularly amongst our council tenants. So I'm very pleased to move this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Milnes?
Yes, thank you, Leader. I was very pleased to see that we continue with this role, which is offering a specialist help to supplement the existing team's work in this respect of spotting mental health issues amongst our tenants particularly, and therefore would like to just speak in firm support of this proposal to extend the pilot and give us a chance to look at other potential joint sources of funding over the next two years. So very happy to second this report.
Thank you very much. I can see I've got Leslie McFarlane ready to answer any other questions. I must say, when we had an informal briefing about this, I think Cabinet were incredibly impressed and very grateful for the work that's going on, because it's obviously having really significant impact and was really filling a void. And with all the pressures on mental health services, my own personal concern is that the threshold for intervention gets ever higher, and so people are falling through the net all the time. So I think what we're doing hopefully makes a significant difference to quite a few people's lives. So I think it's an inspired piece of work. This is just, we're going to hopefully approve a further 2 years funding at the moment, but work will go on with our partners to make sure that we can secure much longer term funding, because the need for this is not going to go away anytime soon, if ever. So any questions for anyone else? Councillor Bradnam.
Thank you. As long as Cabinet didn't have any questions first.
I'm sorry, do Cabinet have any questions? Sorry. They've had quite a long briefing on it, actually, and they asked lots of questions then, so I think they're questioned out. Councillor Bradnam. Thank you.
I wanted to say how much I'm pleased to see that we are seeking an extension of this role. I've had recent experience of how very complicated and time-consuming cases involving our tenants and indeed private renters who have mental health difficulties can be on our ordinary housing staff. So actually I think that this recognition that there is an intervention needed to assist our housing officers and those who are dealing with people in private rented accommodation, it's just so important, because these, one tends to think of people with mental health difficulties as being having a disability, and yet actually often these people are extremely lucid, extremely intelligent, but are seeking answers that we cannot give them. And so actually having a qualified officer who understands mental health difficulties can be a really useful intervention for the housing officer staff. So I'm very happy that we're supporting. Well, it looks like the recommendation is to support this for a further 2 years. I think it's would be money well spent.
Thank you, Councillor Bradnam. And I think the issue is that we have now developed considerable expertise within the officer who's leading on this. And very specialist expertise, and it's not dealing with people with minor problems, it's actually dealing with people with really very serious problems who've really struggled to engage with the support services. And the shocking piece of the report is that 1 in 3 people in social housing report poor mental health, and that touches all of our residents' lives. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Leslie, thank you very much, and thank you for leading on this.
Thank you.
I think it's an exemplary piece of work by this council, which we want to see keeping going. So the recommendation is to approve a further 2 years funding. Do Cabinet members agree with that recommendation?
Agreed.
Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals. Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item 13, which is the review of the Greater Cambridge Housing Strategy. Councillor John Batchelor would normally present this, but he's having a holiday, much well deserved. So I'll present it, and I think Councillor Peter MacDonald is going to second it. So this is an important piece of work. We are very. I haven't missed anything, have I? No, housing strategy, right. Yes, so our housing strategy is joint with Cambridge City, and I know Cambridge City's members have spent some considerable time looking at it. It's absolutely integral to our local plan.
Sorry, have you missed out number 11?
Have I just missed something? I have, haven't I? That's what I thought.
I think we skipped agenda item 12, which is
resident
involvement. Yes, that's why I was hesitating there, but I'm just wondering where that's gone on my paper. Hang on. Take a step back. Sorry, everybody. We're all at 6s and 7s. Yes, as I was speaking there, I was thinking, I'm sure there was something else. Right, step back. Review of residents' involvement framework. So as before, I will present this in Councillor John Batchelor's absence, and Councillor Natalie Warren-Green is going to be seconding it. So, again, my apologies. So considerable work's gone into this to ensure that our residents of our housing are as involved as possible in decisions made about their lives. Our tenants and leaseholders are very, very important to us. We are proud of our track record as a landlord, and it was a good decision taken by this council all those years ago that we retained our housing stock here, and the vote of residents that we remained their landlord was a vote of confidence in us as their landlord. So an awful lot of work goes into maintaining our housing stock to high standards and making it more energy efficient. But the important thing is that we work with our residents, with our tenants and our leaseholders to do this work rather than just doing things to them. And we thank them all for their continued engagement in putting this report together. Councillor Natalie Warren-Green, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing to add other than, well done to the team for responding well continually to the engagement requests, and I'm happy to second it.
Thank you very much indeed. Peter Campbell, is there anything you want to add to this that, or Julie, sorry.
No,
Peter or Julie? Do you want to add anything? No? No, okay. No, okay. Any questions from Cabinet? Sorry, have I got a hand up? No. Can't see anybody. No. Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from members of Cabinet? No. Any comments or questions from anybody else? No. Thank you very much indeed. So thank you very much, Julie, Peter, all the rest of the team. This is quite a big piece of work, I know, and it's not an easy piece of work to get right. So thank you very much indeed. So the recommendations are set out on page 133. Let's get back there. Got them right. Recommended we approve the revised resident involvement strategy Appendix A. That the lead member for Housing, Councillor Batchelor, is given delegated authority to approve any minor amendments following consideration of the strategy at the Housing Engagement Board on the 27th of June, which will be very, very important. So do members agree with proposals?
Agree.
Anyone voting against? Anyone abstaining? No. So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals. Right, now going on to the item 13, the review of the Greater Cambridge Housing Strategy, which I will propose in Councillor Batchelor's absence, and Councillor Peter MacDonald will second. So, as I said very briefly before, the housing strategy is very works alongside of the local plan. I know Cambridge City Council have looked at it in depth, and again, a considerable amount of work has gone into this. So it's about making sure that we are supporting the housing mix that is needed in South Cambridgeshire, and that for the city, the right housing mixes and plans are put in place for the city. It's not the same for the two. So again, Julie, I think, has written this and done a lot of work on it. Councillor MacDonald, anything you want to add?
Simply to add, Leader, it brings the former strategy document up to date, so there's now 2024 to 29, so I would support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for pointing that out. Julie, anything you want to add?
No, nothing further, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Any questions from Cabinet? No? Questions from anybody else? No? Okay, so swiftly on. Recommendations on page 155. It's recommended we approve the Greater Cambridge Housing Strategy 24 to 29 and all the associated annexes, and to approve the minor amendments following the Scrutiny and Overview Committee meeting on the 6th of June and the City Council's Housing Scrutiny Committee that took place on the 18th of June. So I'm sure that will all happen. So do members agree with the proposal?
Agreed.
Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone abstaining? Council therefore agrees the proposals. Right, item 14 now is officer delegations for infrastructure projects, and this paper is in Councillor Toomey Hawkins' name, and I think Councillor Peter MacDonald is going to second that again. So Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you, Leader. As we all know, our area is growing and with that, we're getting lots more nationally significant infrastructure projects that the government is responsible for. However, we as the planning authority, we do participate, I guess I can say, in a consultee role. So we provide formal views on certain parts of the consent process, as well as giving the view on the merits and impacts on our communities, which is important. We have a process in place for dealing with this, as we already have 8 such projects in Greater Cambridge that relate to us. And the Joint Director of Planning and Economic Development has the authority to provide responses on behalf of South Cambs at specific stages of that statutory process. And of course, can refer upwards to a lead cabinet member if appropriate. Now, the purpose of today's report is to add 2 new infrastructure projects to the list, namely the Fence Reservoir and the Kingsway Solar Farm project, which brings them up to 10 nationally significant infrastructure projects in this area. So very simply, I propose the recommendation in paragraph 2 on page 354. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor MacDonald?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, leaders. Just to add that the purpose of this document is for transparency and to avoid any confusion or challenges later on in terms of the council's response. So I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't imagine there's many district councils with as many excuse me, significant projects as we have here. Excuse me. Are there any questions from Cabinet members? Oh, sorry, the hay fever is getting to me big time at the moment. Any questions for anyone else? No? Chingia, is there anything you'd like to add to this? No? Thank you very much indeed. This is very nicely and clearly set out. So, the recommendations set out on page 353. Members agree with proposals?
Agree.
Anyone wishing to vote against? Anyone wishing to abstain? No, so Cabinet therefore agrees the proposals. Thank you very much indeed, Chenga, it's marvellous. And the final item is item 16, which is the materials recycling facility budget, which Councillor John Williams is going to introduce, and Councillor Natalie Warren-Green is going to second. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to explain for those that don't need to take an interest in who's responsible for what in the collection of our waste. But basically, we collect waste along with the other district councils and Peterborough, and the county council disposes of that waste. Now, to do that, there is a materials recycling facility, and the contract to use that facility expires this coming August. Now, initially, the waste collection authorities who come together under RECAP looked at retendering, which they have to do, the whole service. And that tender, when it came back earlier this year, actually showed that there could be a significant increase in the costs to us taking our waste collection to the materials recycling facility. In the region of, at the moment, we're paying around about £57, I think, a tonne at what's called the gate price. And that could actually increase to between £160 and £180 from the tenders that came back at the beginning of the year. It was therefore decided by the waste authorities to actually split that contract down into different parts to see if it would be easier to tender, because the guidance we were receiving was that it is now so complex to recycle what we collect. Since the original contract was signed back in 2014, things have become so complex. It is very costly to have one organisation or company doing everything. So we looked at breaking it down. Now, even though we've done that as part of the waste collection authorities, it's still coming out at around between 60 to 120 pounds. So what this recommendation does, because you'll appreciate that August isn't very far away, this gives delegated powers to the head of finance and in consultation with myself to accept a gate price up to £120, which is considerably more, as I say, than the £57 we're currently paying. Obviously, that will have a significant impact on the revenue costs of running the waste service. But at the end of the day, you know, we are legally obliged to collect waste. I mean, apart from the garden waste, which we're not legally required to, all the other waste we are. And in fact, coming up in the future, as we discussed in other meetings, we will have to separate out food waste from the other recyclable waste. So things are only going to get more expensive. And given that the existing contract finishes in August, this is we have no choice really but to have this delegation to ensure that we can continue to have a facility we can take our waste to.
Thank you. That was a really, really helpful explanation. Councillor Warren Green, if there's anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that was a really thorough description of the situation. Thank you. I'm happy to second that.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions from Cabinet members? No, or anybody else? No, we have Rebecca here willing to dive in with technical detail, but I think you covered everything. Excellent, thank you. So the recommendation on page 359 is that Cabinet notes the potential for additional costs and delegates the decision to approve these once known to the Head of Finance in consultation with the lead Cabinet member, providing the increased spend is not above the expected upper limit of £120 per tonne. So, do members agree with the proposal?
Agree.
Anyone wish to vote against? Anyone abstaining? So Cabinet therefore agrees the proposal. So thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the meeting. The next meeting of Cabinet's on the 24th of September, which seems like a long time away. So thank you everyone. Thank you officers. Thank you for everyone who's prepared all the papers and done all the work. And see you next time. Thank you.